No one tells P. Diddy what to do. Like,
Absolutely.
who tells him?
Clive Davis in the beginning. No, he didn't empower him. That his ass on the block. He gave him power. And all he had to do was diddle-dee-dee and diddle-dee-dum.
The relationship between Clive Davis and Diddy is interesting because when Diddy's 23 years old, he's making a name for himself. Clive gave him $15 million to start Bad Boy Records. And then later on, they did even a bigger deal where Clive gave him $50 million advance on future earnings. This is 5 years later in 1998. $6 million upfront payment, $700,000 annual salary, and a state-of-the-art recording studio. We're talking a $2 million recording studio. This is when he went after Faith Evans. He got Biggie in the early 90s. This is when it started. But there's a relationship with Clive. And it's interesting because Clive later on, they say something may have happened here because Shook said Clive taught him the bad habits.
They're part of the government. And I say that because that's why they were so easy to snatch motherfuckers down. And all the people that they can't say nothing because they're part of it too.
Image has been the foundation of the music industry for decades. Red carpet smiles, speeches on award platforms, and tales of skill, perseverance, and good fortune. However, a number of insiders have long asserted that there is another industry functioning covertly behind that glossy front, one that thrives on control, fear, and quiet. Jaguar Wright retained all the tapes when he said the words, not because it was frightening, but rather because it sounded familiar, like something people had heard before but were too scared to express out. It grabbed attention right away. But this time, she wasn't merely indicating Sean Diddy Combs, she was gesturing up at Clive Davis. Clive Davis isn't your average boss. He is among the most influential people in the history of music. He influenced generations' access to opportunities, established trends, and shaped careers. His impact goes well beyond any one musician or record label. Jaguar Wright's claim struck so hard because of this. She asserts that Diddy did not create the system of leverage, power, and documented secrets. He discovered it, and she thinks that Clive Davis was his teacher. This has nothing to do with established facts or court decisions. This is about trends, stories that recur across decades, why some brands seem to be protected while others are dismissed, and above all, why some industry insiders seem truly terrified now that Diddy's legal issues are no longer just rumors. Because the question is inevitable: if Diddy falls, who is behind him? I hope no one ever mentions their name. Sean Combs' future appeared bleak when he was let go from Uptown Records in the early 1990s. He was talented, ambitious, and self-assured, yet he had enemies. A lot of executives thought he was too careless to be trusted. Once more, Clive Davis intervened at that point.
You're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. So once again, why does diplomacy matter? It wasn't diplomacy that got me that award. It was honesty. So understand this. You can save your race shame and your race-baited conversations. Ain't nobody worried about y'all. We got serious work to do. And after talking to my good friend Paperwork today, it looks like there's some things that I need to make sure that we alert Cash Patel's office about. We think it's of great concern. And I'm sure Mary Flynn would agree with me. She knows how dangerous Diddy can be, and with Clive Davis being at the heart of it all, I'm sure that makes it even more egregious. So yeah, last time I checked, I'm American. Prove I'm not, and then have a problem with it.
Asterisk Clive Davis was already a legend at the time. He had a reputation as a king. Doors opened when he had faith in someone. Careers ended quietly when he didn't. Public records show that Clive helped Bad Boy Records launch successfully following Diddy's departure from Uptown by providing financing and distribution support. Diddy has always expressed his appreciation. He openly thanked Clive Davis on big occasions, such as award shows, for having faith in him while others did not. He described him as a mentor and advisor. This appeared to be a traditional success story at first glance. with a youthful visionary supported by an accomplished CEO. However, detractors contend that this mentoring extended beyond music. According to Jaguar Wright, Clive taught Diddy more than just how to manage a record label. She claims that he taught him how the industry's power actually functions, how to manipulate narratives, how to gain leverage, and how to defend yourself by making sure that others stand to lose more than you do. *.
They just know he got the budget. He go to LA, he talk to Clive, he come back with the bread. Apparently, he has this man's confidence. Yeah, I'm sure that man was very confident with his penis in his mouth. You know what I'm saying? Clive is a whole freak.
You think Clive put him on to all
I know. Clive, that's what he do. Queen Clive. Long may she reign. In hell.
When 50 Cent...
Don't nobody want to talk about why R. Kelly's bus was parked in Clive Davis's driveway, why his tour bus was parked in Clive Davis's driveway at the house where the down between Chris and Rihanna. Don't nobody want to talk about why it was filled with video girls who were being trafficked. And he was never questioned by Me Too. Why ain't nobody from Me Too saying anything? They had so much to say about Harvey Weinstein, who's now all his charges is being dropped. So much for their investigation. Guess it was a little paper thing. I don't know. These mad talkative. They was on the news every goddamn day. And then they brought that witch McGowan, fresh off a breakup with Marilyn Manson, feeling low, gave her a cause. You like the with Harvey Weinstein, right? That's real rad.
According to this account, Bad Boy was more than just a commercial venture. Diddy was a student in that classroom, absorbing knowledge that would influence his conduct for many years to come. Once more, these are accusations, but they also provide an explanation for why so many insiders think Diddy's ascent was not coincidental and why his strategy appeared to be extraordinarily planned from the start.
So no one tells P. Diddy what to do, like...
Absolutely.
Who tells him?
Clive Davis in the beginning. No, he didn't empower him. That motherfucker's ass on a block. He gave him power. And all he had to do was diddle-dee-dee and diddle-dee-dum. Like, he wasn't gonna tell Gene and them that's how he was getting the money.
Right.
Let's be real about that. You think he was going to admit to these we went to school with, who essentially he asked to come to make his G official? Like you heard him say, Christopher Williams Street, Pete Rock, I'll Be Short. They could. You know what I'm saying? Gene Deal. Like, ain't nobody looking at how Puff positioned himself. There was a wall of protection and talent and brilliance around him. Nobody had to look at him for real. And the truth is nobody did. Everybody laughed and joked about him dancing like a in all them goddamn videos. Twirling around in circles. And this wild. Like, you know. So I'm just saying. They didn't know. And he wasn't telling them. They just know he got the budget. He go to LA, he talk to Clive, he come back with the bread. Apparently, he has this man's confidence. Yeah, I'm sure that man was very confident with his penis in his mouth. You know what I'm saying? Clive is a whole freak.
You think Clive put him on to all
I know. Clive, that's what he do. Queen Clive. Long may she reign. In hell.
When 50 Cent...
Don't nobody want to talk about why R. Kelly's bus was parked in Clive Davis's driveway while his tour bus was parked in Clive Davis's driveway at the house where the between Chris and Rihanna. Don't nobody want to talk about why it was filled with video girls who were being trafficked. And he was never questioned by Me Too. Why ain't nobody from Me Too saying anything? They had so much to say about Harvey Weinstein, who's now all his charges is being dropped. So much for their investigation. Guess it was a little paper thing. I don't know. These bitches was mad talkative. They was on the news every goddamn day. And then they brought that witch Rose McGowan, fresh off a breakup with Marilyn Manson, feeling low, gave her a cause.
Rumors silently followed Clive Davis for years. They were frequently discussed in industrial circles, but hardly made headlines in the mainstream. Tales of favors, power struggles, and connections outside of boardrooms and contracts. Many individuals claimed that Clive Davis' memoir, which came out later in life, validated the long-standing rumors that he was bisexual. Although he publicly discussed male relationships, he purposefully kept their identities a secret. That choice simply fueled more conjecture. During the early years of Bad Boy Records, Diddy was allegedly involved in one of such protected partnerships. There have been allegations that Diddy's connection to the industry and financial support came with unstated expectations. Although these claims were never validated, they were made repeatedly over time by many people. Suge Knight made it known that other executives attested to Clive and Diddy's closer bond. He continued by implying that Diddy was influenced by exploitation and that after gaining power, he replicated those same actions. This narrative is supported by Jaguar Wright, who contends that abuse in the industry frequently occurs across generations. She claims that individuals who survive it are occasionally trained to become enforcers rather than victims.
Can't let Bank of America go out of business. We can't let these guys go out of business. Is Biggie part of the too big to fail, or are there people way above Diddy that are part of the too big to fail that they'll always be protected, specifically when you say higher ups?
Well, you got to look at it like this. Puffy is one of those black guys who's probably more fear of white America in black America. We feel in black America, we pass all that. They can't get to him. In white America, you gotta show them some respect. Are they gonna spank him on his ass? Especially now, because when you really look at it, Ciroc was a great company that gave Puffy opportunity. I think he gave him $1,000 to get in, and then he was able to make all this money, and then he wanted more and more and more, and the first time didn't allow him to throw a tantrum, he hit him with the stuff that people hit him with probably. So he told him, hey, you racist. You motherfuckers. They say, yeah. You know, I often say that I was raised in Compton, but I was made in Vegas at UNLV. UNLV taught me the opportunity to be around people that was businessman, that was loyal, that was happy. And that's where my lessons came from. So I understand business better than most people. That's why I ain't never been in no damn videos. So at the end of the day, when Puffy went at the alcohol business, I used to play football with John Kennedy Jr. almost every weekend. One of the best guys I ever met and hung out with. We used to play football. But that being said, he come from a bootlegger family. Most of the big guys come from a bootlegger family. You know, the alcohol was legal. These guys is smart enough to be humble, but wide enough to be aggressive tough. So when Puffy challenged him, and they knew Puffy lived in the glass house, his house came tumbling down because those rocks was coming through that glass house. On the simple fact, when he called those guys racist, and they knew he had those secrets, those hidden secrets, they ain't just found out that the things Puffy was doing. They ain't just found out how the industry is. They haven't just found out how they pick and choose. They're part of the government. And I say that because that's why they were so easy that snatched Mother Puffy down. And all the people that Puffy, they can't say nothing because
These statements are not supported by any verified evidence. What unnerves people, however, is how frequently the same narrative is recounted with comparable details by other voices in various eras. It poses an unsettling query. Why have these rumors persisted if they were wholly untrue?
Davis, of course, everybody knows the music mogul, record executive, and everything. And when that story came out, what Suge Knight said about Puffy and everything, Clive Davis's people said, "Oh, Suge Knight's a disgraced felon." And then it got me thinking. I remember 20-some years ago, David Stern said the same thing about Tim Donahue, the referee who betted on games and got in trouble. And out of his mouth was, "Well, he's a felon." And they like to throw that word around to say that people who got convicted of something serious, that they can't ever come back into society, that they can't ever have another opportunity. That's a nice way of brushing them off. However, they never addressed the elephant in the room. And so when Clive Davis said that about Suge Knight, Suge was talking about the 90s, talking about what he heard, what he knew, what was making the round. You know, I tell anybody this, Puffy wasn't some great producer or composer. He wasn't Teddy Riley. He may have grew up in certain areas as Teddy Riley. He wasn't Teddy Riley. So how did he get a credit of a $70 million credit limit on Arista Records to start Bad Boy? You do the wonder and the math. How you get a credit limit when you're not a producer, you're not a singer, you're not a rapper, and you're kind of comical with your dance routines. So you tell me what happened. Something strange. Tim Donahue, NBA rep. Yes, obviously, bet no games. Rasheed Wallace addressed that and all that, and all the bookies, etc. And he did his time. We always look at the NBA, know stuff be fixed and fake. We know superstars, people have been getting calls for years. We know that they want a market to be a market. And those who remember 20 years ago, the Lakers' last run when Shaq and Kobe, and it was Carmelo and Gary Payton and Phil Jackson, with Derek Fisher and Rick Fox. What came out of David Stern's mouth? He said, if I had my way, it'd be LA versus LA. It's about market to market. Yeah. See, when people tell the truth, I don't care if they have been convicted of something or not. Facts is facts. That has nothing to do with the reality. But I noticed that Clive Davis, like David Stern, like to throw that felon word on people to offset from talking about the reality. When we put some stuff together, you don't have to be Einstein or a genius to see, or Dr. Charles Drew or something to put it together, or George Washington Carver to see where the nut is coming from, where it grows. You can see it right there in front of your eyes. There's no element of surprise there.
Jaguar Wright wasn't using metaphors when she claimed that he retained every tape. She was explaining a control system. She claims that the recordings weren't made by accident. They were deliberate. She says Diddy filmed talks, parties, private times, and compromised situations for leverage, not for amusement or recollection. More significantly, she implies that Diddy did not create the concept of documentation as power, and that this behavior was learned. It was passed down to him from his predecessors. Jaguar suggests that long before Diddy did, Clive Davis recognized the importance of recorded secrets. According to her, Clive Davis's current level of anxiety is not related to his direct criminal involvement. It's about history being exposed without any safeguards or filters. No evidence of Clive Davis's presence on any tape has been made public. There is no recorded evidence of his involvement. Fear, however, doesn't need proof. Fear exists in the potential. If there are recordings, they don't have to be made public in order to spread fear. Powerful people get anxious only by the possibility that they exist. Because of this, Jag claims that Clive Davis is keenly observing Diddy's demise, not out of sympathy, but out of concern. Because everyone in their vicinity becomes endangered when one person loses protection.
Can you just get, for people who don't know, like, because I've always thought black people started music, just me.
Well, the thing is we did. We were the culture. The Jews and the Italians monetized it and started setting prices. That's why Clarence Avant was so important to the black community in entertainment. because he was the go-between for the talent to the powers that be. He understood what their objective was, and he knew what his people needed, and he created that balance, which is why Clive Davis hated him so much. See, people don't want to. Did y'all see when they interviewed Dapper Dan about Diddy?
I haven't seen that one. Please.
They ran into Dapper Dan in Harlem, and they asked him what he thought about what was going on with Diddy and if he knew Diddy. And I love Dapper Dan for this. He said, I grew up with his parents. I knew his parents. He said, and what's going on with him has been going on long before him. Now, his father was a government snitch and a bad actor in the criminal world altogether. The woman that they're saying is his mother was a prostitute, a whore. But there's whispers in the streets of Harlem that Diddy's mother isn't alive. Not his biological mother, but that woman is his aunt.
Whoa.
There are whispers.
Wait a minute.
There are whispers. Diddy's story is so convoluted, but nobody really likes talking about who he was before he became Puffy.
One trend emerged, often as Diddy's litigation and accusations were made public: the private events, the parties, and the late-night settings where customs are suspended. According to former insiders, these gatherings were meticulously regulated. Allegations state that the guests were surrounded by pressure, wealth, and power. Boundaries were blurred, recordings were purportedly made, and substances were present. According to Jaguar Wright, Diddy was not the originator of this system. She contends that it was a paradigm that was adopted by the industry as a means of achieving mutual compromise and maintaining silence. She believed that Clive Davis had a thorough understanding of this method before Diddy did. According to reports, he taught Diddy how to make people want to keep the secret, since disclosing it would make them ruin themselves. There isn't any concrete proof linking Clive Davis to these incidents. However, former workers have spoken in whispers about a culture that stopped caring about safety after a certain hour.
The relationship between Clive Davis and Diddy's interesting because when Diddy's 23 years old, he's making a name for himself. Clive gave him $15 million to start Bad Boy Records. And then later on, they did even a bigger deal where Clive gave him $50 million advance on future earnings. This is 5 years later in 1998. $6 million upfront payment, $700,000 annual salary, and a state-of-the-art recording studio. We're talking a $2 million recording studio. This is when he went after Faith Evans. He got Biggie in the early 90s. This is when it started. But there's a relationship with Clive. And it's interesting because Clive later on, they say something may have happened here because Shook said Clive taught him the bad habits. And later on, Clive comes out and says the following. Yes, record mogul Clive Davis has identified as being by. He publicly revealed in his memoir, this is not allegedly, he said it, the soundtrack of my life. At the age of 80, he also discussed in an interview with Katie Couric, expressing the hope that his coming out would contribute to greater understanding of
Such a method explains the silence of so many influential names. Survival comes from silence. Speaking up turns into self-destruction. Regardless of the veracity of these assertions, they represent a larger perception that the music business values allegiance to authority over the truth. Not all artists quietly embraced this system. Some retaliated, and when they did, the results were frequently dire. One of the most well-known instances is the altercation with Clive Davis on TLC. According to reports, they were paid a startlingly low amount after selling millions of recordings. At Arista Records, their annoyance erupted into an outright altercation. They insisted on responses. They insisted on being treated with dignity. Jaguar Wright relates this instance to a larger trend. She claimed that artists who defied authority were called unstable, unpleasant, and ungrateful. Their prospects disappeared, and their careers stalled. She goes on to imply that some artists lost their lives in addition to their careers. Despite the fact that these allegations are wholly unfounded and incredibly severe, they continue because many people think the industry has never been held absolutely responsible. Clive Davis is portrayed as the system's leader in this story. The artists are disposable assets, and Diddy is the pupil who has mastered its rules. Regardless of the veracity of these assertions, they demonstrate the pervasiveness of mistrust in the sector.
And good afternoon, I'm Wade Johnson in New York. We're coming back on the air because the judge has just sentenced Sean Diddy Combs to 4 years in prison. He was found guilty over the summer on 2 counts of transportation to engage in in connection with his ex-girlfriend Cassie Ventura and another woman, but was acquitted on more serious charges that could have sent him to prison for life. Let's get right to our chief investigative correspondent, Aaron Katersky, who's been following this trial from the beginning. He joins us from outside the courthouse in Lower Manhattan. So, Aaron, we just got the verdict right there. We know that Combs himself spoke to the judge responded. Lay out the sentencing here and what went down in the courtroom today.
She said he has to stay.
This was a very long sentencing hearing, which Sean Combs himself, once larger than life, was left begging for mercy, standing at the defense table, telling the judge that he's a changed man, apologizing for his behavior. But that request for a lenient sentence of time served was rejected by the judge, Arun Subramanian, who said it was insufficient to send the kind of message that he wanted to send, that violence against women must be met with real accountability. And so he sentenced Sean Combs to 4 years in prison. That's not as much as federal prosecutors here wanted. They wanted 11 years in prison, reminding the judge that Sean Combs has a penchant for violence and abuse, pointing to 2016 hotel security video showing Combs attacking Cassie Ventura. Combs says he knows that video intimately. He apologized to Cassie Ventura. The judge said 11 years was unreasonable, but 4 years is just the right amount, the judge said, to send a message to Sean Combs, to victims of domestic violence, that their accounts will be taken seriously.
Aaron, thanks. Let's go ahead and bring in a trial attorney and ABC News legal contributor, Brian Buckmeyer. Brian, we just heard Aaron lay out right there that the defense was hoping for 14 months and credit for time served. The prosecution wanted 11 years. So this is somewhere in the middle. Is this verdict what you expected?
It actually was not what I expected, and this is why I say that. The probation report said anywhere from 70 to 87 months, much higher than the 50 months that the judge gave. And understand, and I'll try to break down the math as best as I can, the judge understands the math of how this all works. With 50 months in the federal system, you only do 85% of that. So you take away about 8 months or so, that's 42 months. And don't forget that Sean Combs has already been sitting in NDC, the jail here in Brooklyn, New York, for 13 months. So you subtract 13 months even from that, you're looking at something like 2 years, maybe 3 years at the end of the day. The judge knew that and still gave this sentence. I think if you're Sean Combs and his defense team, a hard day, but overall a win for them.
Everything has altered because of Diddy's legal issues. The shield that had around him seems to have weakened. Lawsuits are open to the public. There are still investigations going on. The former allies are pulling away. Others start to worry when a powerful figure loses their protection. According to Jaguar Wright, Clive Davis is terrified not because he did anything wrong, but because history might be rewritten, because stories that have been suppressed might be spoken again without the customary protections. Diddy's collapse poses a greater harm to his reputation than his own if he videotaped everything. An entire age of unbridled power is at risk. Controlling narratives has allowed Clive Davis to endure decades in the field. But when secrets come to light, narratives become brittle. Jaguar Wright says that's why this moment feels different. The quiet becomes more oppressive. The dread seems genuine. The music business was governed by unwritten rules for many years. Don't inquire. Don't question authority. Don't reveal what powers the system. At the pinnacle of that structure was Clive Davis. Diddy was a symbol of its development. The voice that won't go silent is represented by Jaguar Wright. Whether or not her charges are accurate, they have compelled the business to have a discussion that it had shunned for many years. Because responsibility is unavoidable if authority was based on secrets, and those secrets were documented. One man's downfall is never solely about him. It concerns the people who raised him, shielded him, and now dread being identified. Thus, one topic remains unanswered, while the focus remains on Diddy.
Yes, there were shrines used for rituals. There's bloody places. There's parts where there's limbs. People cut off limbs and want you to have sex in it. There's blood. There's blood that I don't even know who it belongs to. There's a lot.
So hang on. So someone like the people that you've named are here at these shrines where there is human flesh, bones, human body parts, and they want people to participate in orgies in amongst all of this human blood. Is that a satanic ritual feces. Is this a satanic ritual that they are participating in?
Yes. Yes, there's people who want to, there's people who have animals, dead animals. I was taken and told that I had to give a blowjob to Biden.
So Joe Biden was there at this shrine.
Something happened. I don't know what happened. I was down there for a while. There's certain people that you don't talk about because you just don't. There were certain people that I seen down there, from Beyonce, Jay-Z. You don't tell on P. Diddy, but P. Diddy.
So you said you don't tell on these people. Is that like a code that all victims adhere to? They don't talk about this stuff?
Yes, you don't, because nobody's gonna believe you. You're nothing to them. You don't count. You're just a toy. You're not essential, as they call them. You're expendable. And as a child in that situation, I wasn't the type of person that was fighting all the time, because I started to learn who I was. I started to learn my pimp. I started to learn what I was in. I started to learn that you don't fight. You watch what you say, you watch what you do. And at some point I stopped fighting people, and I started to accept the fact of what I was told, that I was special enough to be with this person. I was special enough to be in the eyes of a celebrity or somebody who's on the radio or on TV, and I accepted.
Will Clive Davis remain untouchable if the tapes are ever made public? Please share your thoughts in the comments section below. Click the subscribe button if you enjoy this video so you don't miss any future ones. And in the meanwhile, family, be honest.